There he is. Another little one. Oh, yeah, you can jump. Sure you can jump. Come here. Well, you're bigger than the last one, but you're still not much. Easy. We do have other options, and there are times when these other baits are going to get us more strikes. The number one option is a plastic worm. This hook tail design, it's a great choice for muddy water. Why? It puts out a lot of vibration as it's going to the bottom. Displaces more water. That's going to be my choice for flipping in dirty water. Vegetation in clear water, this is a more subtle presentation. It's got a slither tail type, and it's going to slide through vegetation easier, and it's probably going to get you a few more strikes in open water conditions. I'll swim that bait a little bit more. But that's how I kind of decide between the two styles. Dirtier water, going to that type of bulkier, heavier action tail type worm. Clear water, the smaller diameter, slither tail. Oh, there we go. He was laying by that old log. Oh, and he come on. That was a good fish all by himself over here on that isolated log. He hit it right on the back side, and I never did get a good hook set on him. I made a bad pitch there. I got the bait about 2 foot further than I should have, and I had the cushion of that log when I set the hook, which didn't help, and that's probably why he got off. You just can't be too accurate with your presentation. One thing when you're putting these hooks in, run a channel back and forth. That way they'll penetrate out the other side easier. This is the type of sinker right there. All you're doing is sliding it down your line and actually rotating the slip sinker or the worm, and it becomes one. It's a little off center there. But the neat thing now, the fish gets it in his mouth. And when we talked about earlier, how do they throw baits? When they jump, they shake their head, is how they throw baits. The heavier that bait down at their mouth, the easier it is for them to throw because they get a lot more momentum going back and forth. The lighter that bait is, the harder it is for them to throw. In the old days, we toothpicked our slip sinkers. We put them on our line, then we shoved a toothpick up in there and broke it off and slid it down next to the bait like this so that it'd stay together. Well, when you hook that fish, that's exactly what it did. It stayed together, and you had all that weight down at the fish's lips. With this slip sinker, you set the hook. It's screwed into the plastic bait, but it's not wedged to your line. So up it goes. When he shakes his head, your slip sinker goes up the line, takes your plastic, whether it's a lizard or a worm, with it, and the only thing left down at the bass's mouth is the hook. And the hook doesn't weigh anything. You could throw slack line and let him jump, and he probably can't throw that light wire hook. So you end up landing more fish just because of the type of slip sinker. So I pretty well have gone, when I'm fishing plastics, to that screw-in type slip sinker, and I think it's putting a few more fish in the boat for me. I come over that log down there. Oh, what a fish. And he absolutely clobbered that worm. Man, what a vicious bite that was. Oh, what a beautiful bass. Oh, just a huge, huge farm pond fish. Come here. Oh, man. Look at how fat that fish is. Oh, that is one of the biggest farm pond bass I think I've ever caught. Boy, he's got that worm. Oh, come here, guy. Don't hurt yourself. He's got that worm all the way down on the roof of his mouth. Just look. Maybe we can get the camera down there. Look at how deep that fish has that worm. He got it way back down there. His mouth's so big I can stick my whole fist down in it. There we go. Oh, something else. Look down in his mouth and you can see the tail of a big old fish that he already ate sticking out. Man, and look at the belly on him. Look at how fat that fish is. That, folks, is a beautiful bass. I don't know what he weighs, but he's a big one. Let's let him go. That fish hasn't spawned yet. Isn't even close. His tail's not even red. Man, did he like that plastic worm. You ready, guy? Huh? You ready? There you go. That's what fishing's all about. You talk about fun. God, was that fun. And the hit, a lot of times on a plastic worm, you just get that little tap, and you're really not sure whether it's a little fish. When that fish hit, there was no doubt in my mind that it was a monster, because that line jumped about 6 inches, and it was just that thump. And when you get that solid thump, you better be ready, because it's usually a good fish. I started out throwing top water in the shallows on this pond. That's what I do a lot of times on a major lake. And then as the sun angle went up, we changed techniques. And, of course, the great big fish we caught on a shady area by a tree on a plastic worm, which I can't tell you the number of fish that I've caught on that same scenario on major reservoirs. So the same things apply. Water's water, bass are bass, but these are some secret opportunities that a lot of people don't know about. And this pond, that fish we caught, we're talking the middle of the United States. That was not a big old Florida bass. That was a huge, huge fish for this part of the country. Whew, that was exciting. I need a new worm. I may just bite this one off and get back in there. There might be another one. Yeah. Neat deal. Just had a Texas-rigged June bug worm on a 1/4 ounce slip sinker, 15-pound test line, and just crawling it over the logs down on the bottom. And that fish actually came off a piece of cover that you couldn't visually see. What you have to visualize is how some of these logs run out under the water, and don't throw at the end that you see sticking up. Throw at where you think the base of it is, because that's going to be the deepest part of these submerged trees, and that's usually where those fish are laying, and that's where that one was. That was a fun deal. Most of my farm pond experience, I always had a fish kind of like this, looking for the landowner. There's one. He got that crankbait. Never even made it to the bottom. Go ahead, you can jump, sure, or try to throw it. Early in the morning. Stands to reason he was that close to the bank. Come aboard. Nice little farm pond bass there. Where you got those hooks? Boy, he's hooked good. Yeah, nice fish. I threw that up by the bank. I got about 2 cranks of the handle, and I know that bait wasn't 3 foot underneath the surface. And this particular bait will dive down to about 12 foot. But he didn't let it get there. He grabbed it right away. And early in the morning, when your sun angle's low like it is right now, a lot of these fish, whether you're fishing a reservoir or a farm pond, they're going to be tight to the bank, capitalizing on early morning feeding opportunities. We took a lap around this pond early this morning with topwater baits, and we got a couple of little small bass to bite them. And now we're taking a lap around it with a crankbait. And we'll probably come back and go around at Carolina rigging or worming a little later in the day as the fish continue to work a little bit deeper, keep changing our techniques. And I really think that's a key no matter where you fish, whether it's a farm pond or a reservoir. As the day progresses, you know, kind of analyze where should the fish be. That sun angle's higher, they're going to move tighter to some of the trees, or they're going to move deeper. In this particular pond, especially on the lower end, there's not a lot of cover opportunities for this fish. So their only way to get into a darker light situation is to pull a little deeper. And I'll bet a couple hours from now, when that sun gets higher, we're going to have changed techniques. And if we get any more bites on the crankbait, I bet it'll be after it gets down the bottom. I don't think we'll see any more like that. But I'll take them any old way they want to bite the bait.
Is it true when they say to use bright baits on sunny days and dark baits on cloudy days?
I don't know what you mean by is that true or not. I think on a lot of situations, on bright days, those bright baits do reflect a lot and can be real good strike enhancers. And on dark days, the darker baits goes right with the theory of bait selection that I use in jigs especially. So I think to a certain extent that is true. It still goes back to water clarity, though. You always got to analyze that water clarity first when you look at color selection. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Do fish see color?
Do fish see color? Absolutely, they do see color, and don't ask me to get into the technical aspects. If my son was here with his college fish degree or whatever and all that background, he could tell you exactly what they can see. One thing he told me is that one of the colors that really disappears last and that they can see, especially in muddy water, is brown, which is a color that I never ever related to. But they can actually distinguish certain colors of gray. They can take it that far. So, yeah, they can see color. This water is what I would call slightly stained. You've probably got 2 foot of good visibility. It's not what I'd call muddy. It's more than slightly stained. It's just plain stained water. So it opens up some color options, and it also opens up the option to get fairly close to the fish because they're not going to be very spooky. Now, if this water was what I call clear, where you had 5 or 6 foot of visibility, you need to back off and make longer casts. But you get into stained or muddy water, you can get right on top of them fish, and it's not going to spook them very bad. I'm surprised this pond's not clearer, with all the good vegetation around it to kind of filter the runoff. That's a key to keeping a farm pond from being red mud. Folks, this is the farm pond we've been fishing this morning. You can see it in the background down here. Just a beautiful, beautiful place. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about coming to farm ponds. They're a little more secluded, peaceful. You don't have all that boat traffic running around like we do on some of the major reservoirs that I have to fish to make my living. But farm ponds offer fantastic fishing, and they're underutilized. All across the United States, there's ponds that some of them don't even get fished in a whole year's time, and you can seek some of these places out yourself. And usually if you just locate the pond, you can do some of this with getting an area map, locate the owner, and if you ask him, a lot of them are, they're very comfortable with letting you fish if you make sure you clean up all your trash and try to leave the pond in better shape than what you found it, and have a little discussion with the owner on how he feels about catch and release. And some of these ponds need some fish taken out of them. Some of them are very well managed, and you really need to leave the fish in there. But they're great experiences, and we've had a terrific time today. Caught probably the biggest bass that I've ever caught out of a farm pond. I think if you try fishing a few of them, you'll get the same type of opportunities.
Never underestimate the farm pond. That is the lesson learned today in the bass class. That
reason is because no official shooting competition offers a 16-gauge division. Even in skeet, where there's a 12